Hi YouTubers, another video here from me, Evelyn. I just came back from the cinema and I saw Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Well, as we know, it was the long-awaited sequel from the original film Beetlejuice, starring, was it Gina Davis, Alec Baldwin, and Winona Ryder, Michael Keaton. The iconic Michael Keaton. I saw the first one like any other teenager that loves that genre of films with Tim Burton. So the first one was more like the perspective of the ghost with Gina Davis and her husband. The second film, now it got mixed reviews. In short, the summary of the second film, not in short, but so it starts off we find Lydia Deetz, Winona Ryder. She's all grown up. She's doing a paranormal as a medium. We find out that her experiences from the first film left her being a medium. She can see ghosts, but unfortunately, her teenage daughter Jenna Ortega. Now I can see the gripe about the plot-wise. She was so annoying from the start, and at the end, well, I'll reveal the reason of the character change. Jenna Ortega's character, I can't even remember her name. What was it? I'll put the name here. That's how unforgettable that her character was. That she's in boarding school, she's not speaking to her mom. But however, we find out that Lydia Deetz, her father died. One thing I never paid attention to, Delia was the stepmom. I didn't realize that she was not the mom. So the actress Catherine O'Hara, like, wow, she still looks great for her age. She comes back to let Lydia know the news because Delia is like now a famous, contemporary artist, or what was it? Movement art, something along the lines of that. Very eccentric. She ends up telling Lydia that the dad died. Now, I don't know why they killed off the actor. He's still alive. I'll put his name here. I thought he was dead. For some reason, I thought that the dad from the first film was the actor John Ritter, who sadly passed away. And I thought at first, oh, okay, that makes sense there, explaining his absence. But they do one of those montage scenes, typical Tim Burton, with like, was it stop motion? But I guess I believe now it's stop motion mixed with a little bit of CGI, recounting how the dad died, that he was in the plane crash, and then Lydia, sorry, she goes and says he died in a plane crash, and then the stepmom was like, no, while he was hanging on for dear life with the other survivors in the middle of the ocean, a shark went and bit half his body off, which is like, that's hilarious. So Lydia and Delia, they pick up the daughter. I'm gonna find out the name, this is embarrassing now. Okay, I'm back. The daughter's name was Astrid. How could I forget that? That they go to the art school and there's that big sculpture from Beetlejuice 1 with that kind of like claw thing. So the understanding that Delia is really rich, and in turn, so is Lydia. And there's that annoying character of, what was it, Rory or Justin Trudeau, whatever, like the cousin of Louis Theroux, not Justin Trudeau. I was thinking probably of the Canadian president, like Justin Theroux, the cousin of Louis Theroux, the famous documentary maker from, England. What, like, why did they put so many annoying characters? The fiance was annoying, the teenage daughter was annoying. Okay, so the bottom point of the second part is Beetlejuice's ex-wife, well, let's call her Corpse Bride. I can see, Tim Burton, come on, that has to be a homage. And Monica, what's her name? What's her name? Monica Bellucci playing Dolores, the ex-wife of Beetlejuice, but more, I can see where Tim Burton got the inspiration for this one, Corpse Bride. It's very similar, the aesthetic. She ends up getting released from her box. She was in body parts and ends up reassembling herself, and she wants to go after Beetlejuice. And all this time, Beetlejuice is managing some office, and that's the other thing. There were some parts that they could have fleshed out a little bit, just the storyline, because the essence of the film is down to dumb choices. So when they get back to the town where the famous ghost house is, Lydia's there with her annoying manager / boyfriend Rory, there's Astrid. So they go and make this weird funeral. The headstone of the dad, now that looks pretty. It was all crystal, when you have those 3D was it pictures in a tube? It was kind of looking like that. And of course, Astrid she doesn't believe that her mom can see ghosts, that we find out that her dad died in an expedition, but before that Lydia and Astrid's dad, they were already separated. Now, the sense that we get from the character Lydia, she never had a real paternal figures, like all maternal figure. Everybody was crazy basically, and as well she's just very flighty. That was the character. Like Winona Ryder in like doing the Beetlejuice 2, she did the character justice. I felt like it was more on closing in on Lydia's kind of like destiny as going as a medium in this sense, and she's blind to the manipulation from her boyfriend. Well, it was really obvious because the boyfriend was like being a fake supportive guy because he was only there as a manager for Lydia's show of the ghost house, whatever, for the money, which gets later on revealed. It was really obvious. So when they're at the funeral, Rory decides to launch it and say, let's get married, and you know, what better way to propose marriage in a goddamn funeral. And Astrid couldn't believe what she was seeing, and Lydia, the character needed to grow a backbone. That was one thing that was missing. But the understanding that we got was Lydia didn't have closure with her ex-husband / Astrid's father's death, so she was all over the place. Like they kind of mentioned unresolved feelings. So Astrid goes into town on a bicycle. She's there riding, trying to get away from this whole weird show, and she ends up crashing through a fence and knocking into a tree, and then she finds a teenage boy. Now, what's gonna happen next? I'm thinking to myself, the naivety of things, and the character. Well, Jenna Ortega, since she did Wednesday, the Addams Family thing that shot her to fame, she kind of been typecast her acting. It's all kind of very similar to the Wednesday acting. I had the feeling that how close they filmed Beetlejuice 2 was maybe close to doing the Wednesday thing. So she meets this boy, they kind of strike up a friendship. Later on, Astrid, she goes up first. She's seen the attic and she sees the 3D model of what was on Beetlejuice 1 of the whole town that the original ghost couple had before they died. And she sees a box there of her dad's name. He was called Richard, and she sees through the photos reminiscing, and the mom's there. They have a tender moment. But before that, Astrid does see this weird leaflet of Beetlejuice. Well, when we get to see Michael Keaton, iconic actor. He was there for what was it, 22 minutes? Even that was the agreement, and the kind of sense that he was biding his time, waiting in the afterlife to get back with Lydia. Now it was a little bit creepy. A portrait of a teenage girl. Well, the photographic portrait there since all those years ago, and he's there biding his time. So he's like leaving little clues, and as well throughout the film, we get the sense that he's still haunting Lydia for like this kind of like emotional connection, that Lydia's there. Sometimes sees flashes of him in the real world. And when Astrid sees the leaflet, and then when the mom sees it, Lydia, she's horrified. She knows he's there. So Lydia, for understandable reasons, freaks out, but Astrid still doesn't understand. And then when she goes down, she then says, what was it? No, strike that. And then Astrid gets upset yet again. So Rory goes up to the really annoying boyfriend and obvious in his attentions, sees the model and and Lydia's there, and then she sees Beetlejuice there, and then she confesses to Rory that there was that secret, and then she says what happened in part 1, but Rory doesn't believe it, and then he says, like the way our therapist said, we have to get over our fears, and he says Beetlejuice 3 times, and then they get transported into the model tower. Now Lydia gets her confirmation that Beetlejuice is there. I don't want to say alive and kicking, but ever more present in her life. And she ends up, Rory's there like fainting and everything, and then we get this great special effects. And then Lydia goes and takes Rory back to their house by saying home, home 3 times. I guess 3 times is magic for going back to the original state. And Rory chalks it up to a bad dream, but then Lydia's like, she's had enough. She tells Delia, and then she tells Astrid, you got your wish, we're patching up everything and we're leaving. But lo and behold, Astrid says, I have a get together with a boy. And then that was another thing. When Astrid went into this boy's house, the mom and dad were very absent-minded, and that was really weird. And that is what the reason I'm pointing this out is what I'm going to reveal next. So Lydia caves into her daughter by taking her there one last night and picking her out at a certain time, goes back to the house, and then Astrid is there with the boy. Now this is the bit where I say that the acting of Jenna Ortega, she couldn't do a different expression than Wednesday bit. Astrid is there dressed up as Marie Curie, and the boy's there as James Dean. She's there with sweets, and she's all awkward, saying, "Oh, like, maybe do you want to give out the sweets to the kids then?" And then he's like, "No, I wasn't. I was lying." So I'm paraphrasing, and then he leans in for the kiss. Now the expression that Jenna Ortega does there was almost like that creepy Wednesday, like wide-eyed, like. I can't even do it myself, but people that saw her or Jenna Ortega's acting on Wednesday just think about that. And then they start kissing. I'm like, this character Astrid is meant to be a realist. She hardly knows this boy, and all of a sudden she gets naively kissing some rando. And then we get kind of almost a gasp moment where both of them are levitating from the floor, and then she drops down and the boy tells her not to be scared, and then she has that realization that he's a ghost, and we end up finding out later the parents are a ghost. So he tricks her into saying, if you want to see your dad, and as well, I want to be alive again. I want to get out from since he died in the house, in the tree house. He wants to be alive again. So he tricks her into going into the afterlife and tricks her into saying this incantation. Now, cut forward. Lydia's there with the real estate agent because they're going to sell their house, and she ends up finding out that the house in which Astrid's in was a murder house. The boy killed the parent and was hiding in the tree house when the police came. Something happened. He fell off from the tree house and broke his neck on impact and died. And then Lydia is horrified. And on top of that as well, Astrid finally realizes that her mom was telling the truth all along. And then we have that shift of character. Now, they could have fleshed out the development of the relationship a bit more. It was kind of like two extremes. One, I hate you so much, and afterwards, oh my god, you were right. So that was Jenna Ortega, for what it is, it's maybe casting to type. Sometimes the people that end up having the most successful roles is going close to their personality, and if that's the case, that's really off-putting then. But anyway, I don't know this person, so by all means, probably she did a really good job acting the way that they asked her to act. So when Lydia goes there, she ends up finding out she was too late, that Astrid and the boy goes into the afterlife to start that process. And Lydia has no choice but to ask the help from Beetlejuice. And Beetlejuice basically says, "I'll help you find your daughter, but you have to sign this contract to marry me." And she says, okay. So she goes into the underworld, and Beetlejuice there is running havoc. Now, Monica Bellucci, it's known she's dating the Tim Burton, the director, and it's a bit, she's a beautiful actress, but like, what was her? She was like maybe a prop, and like acting and these one-liners and nothing of substance. Take it for what it is. And as well, the soul sucker, she was going around sucking the souls of the undead and making them properly dead, like no trace of them, because she was like after Beetlejuice. Oh, and the understanding that we get of how Beetlejuice kind of escaped the shrunken head business, apparently had a stand-in called Bob that would wear his suit and he has a shrunken head. Well, that's from my understanding. So they're in the afterlife, and we find Beetlejuice helps Lydia to find the daughter. She ends up saving the daughter from going into the soul train that would take her permanently, because they already switched, was it? Astrid inadvertently ended up giving her life to the psycho killer ghost boy. So right now Beetlejuice basically tells Lydia, right now we have to stop Rory for getting the stamp on the spirit rod, because apparently they had like passports, to stop him getting the stamp and for his life to be returned. Oh yeah, on the top of that, Lydia manages to find, Astrid on the soul train, squeezing through the bunch of ghosts and taking her out. They end up escaping from this portal door that they end up finding the sand the Beetlejuice sandworm because it's matching colors, and they end up getting saved by Richard, the undead ex-husband and Astrid's dad. No, it's so hilarious. The understanding that Richard died by piranhas, so he had piranhas stuck to his body. Now the reconciliation and the reunion had like they could have had flashbacks with the dad in human form for us to feel anything. Well, for me it was like the most coldest reunion ever. It was kind of like, oh my god, I'm reunited with my dad, oh this and that, and Richard basically saying you two have to like take care of each other. So that was the only vehicle tool of the dad to put the relationship of daughter and mother back together. So they end up escaping back to the real world, but Beetlejuice hasn't forgotten the deal, the contract. So he ends up crashing the Halloween wedding that was meant to be with Rory and Lydia. And Lydia is still going through with it as long as Rory loves me. But Beetlejuice was really helpful to help Lydia realize that the boyfriend was just a douchebag. So Beetlejuice forces Rory to reveal the truth, and Rory says, yeah, I just wanted you for your money as your husband. You know, that evil kind of like, I'm the, gold digger type. And then it's when Lydia gets that revelation and Beetlejuice gives her like this big boxing glove. Of course there's the magic there and the supernatural, and Lydia finally opens her eyes. But the end was very reminiscent of number one. Beetlejuice puts Lydia back in the red dress and they're about to get married, but Dolores ends up interrupting, so there's that big fight and Astrid saves the day. Basically she ends up opening up this kind of portal door with the help from and poor Delia. Now, why did they have to kill her off? She ends up buying these snakes that was supposedly like not poisonous, but they cheated her, and she ends up dying as well. Okay, because it was kind of like really weird. Like these characters, some of them it was kind of very flippantly, they erased them off the board. And with Delia's case, so you didn't really feel that bad about it. And Rory as well. Beetlejuice basically tells Dolores you could take Rory, he's a better candidate. But when Astrid helps to open up that door for the sandworm to appear, the sandworm ends up consuming Dolores and Rory. Now, what a way to end this kind of like nemesis for Beetlejuice. It was clean cut and surgical. That was my feeling about some parts of the movie. It was kind of like, we don't like the character, or like, okay, it didn't really matter that much, so let's make them disappear in 1 second. No build up, no emotional ties, no nothing. And the later part, now one actor I'm missing to describe was incoincidental mind, even though he's a great actor, of Willem Dafoe, playing the police detective chief of the afterlife. But in the previous life, when he was alive, he was an actor, aka doing police roles. He ends up crashing into the real world with the ghost police, basically, and he ends up trying to stop Beetlejuice and whatever, but Beetlejuice ends up freezing them. And the ending part was as simple as saying his name 3 times again, and he ended up blowing up as a balloon and then going back to the afterlife. Because of course the sense is, you say his name 3 times, he comes to the real world, wreaks havoc. Say his name 3 times, and from what I understood, he goes back to the afterlife, not to be allowed to go back to the world of the living. So that's what happens. Now the end part was like, what? The understanding is that Lydia finally takes Astrid to the 3 places she was gonna go with her dad, the most haunted places, like the Tower of London, Transylvania, and some other third part, I can't remember. So there's that little montage, and the understanding is that Lydia, while going to Transylvania, kind of falls in love with this guy, and she ends up getting married, and then Lydia's there. Oh no, Astrid, not Lydia, Astrid falls in love with some Transylvanian guy and then has a kid, and then and when the child comes out is the Beetlejuice baby, and then when I saw that I was like, what? And then Lydia wakes up again in a dream and she turns around and there's Beetlejuice there in the bed. So it's one of those double nightmare dreams, and she wakes up and then the movie ends. And when I saw that, I was like, what? Is this some kind of metaphor to say Beetlejuice will never be that Beetlejuice would always be there and Lydia would never be rid of him? And that was the end. Now the movie was funny, but I can understand the plot. They could have worked out the plot a bit more to make a bit more sense, because the first one had a bit more sense because it was steered by Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin. But on this one, it was steered by Winona Ryder, but the character of Lydia wasn't really, because what do you call it? In the first one, Lydia had more sense than her own daughter as a teenager. It would have been nice to see like more explanation about how Lydia came to that state. But anyway, at the end of it, we now know that Astrid has ghost powers. They could do number 3, but yeah. So I agree with the rating that I saw of 3 stars out of 5. Unfortunate, but hey. Is what it is. Sometimes it's bad to do sequels. Okay, you let me know if you've seen the movie. What did you thought about it? Did it match up to the first one, or was it just, you know, a cash grab, as they say? Leave your comments down below, and to any new viewers, I really appreciate it. You can hit the subscribe button, and to the current subscribers, a big thank you for watching these videos. And as I leave you always, stay safe,